To the Rodeo Roundup live, unplugged right here. It is the week 1 of February live professional rodeo update. There's a lot of stuff that's going on early on in the year, and we're going to start it off with one of the most well-known rodeos of the year, and it's inside the iconic Cowtown Coliseum on the Fort Worth Stockyards. It's a huge, huge deal. Many performances, and some legendary stock contractors as well as contract acts are live right in the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo. And this week, I'll tell you what, it was the bareback riding that was on display. It was none other than young gun and super sensation Tim O'Connell that takes the bareback riding at the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo with 79.5 points aboard J-Bar J's Chili Lounge. And I'll tell you what, it was one heck of a ride. It was a rank pen of bucking horses, and that's why 79.5 points took it. But it doesn't matter as long as you get the legendary win inside the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo in the Cowtown Coliseum. So he is on a roll. He's on a tear. Heading in 2 weeks, he's going to be right back in Arlington, Texas, just about 30 minutes from there, as we go live from the AT&T Cowboy Stadium and the RFD TV's The American. So the Rodeo Roundup will be there live for you to cover all that action. But I'll tell you what, my money is on the young gun Tim O'Connell, as he's on a roll right now. You know, we shift gears. We go from down south in Texas to all the way up to the cold country of South Dakota, where our partners, Avid Visual Rodeo Imagery Photography, is live as a PRCA photographer right there. And Cody Woodward, he's a hometown cowboy, South Dakota cowboy, and he had one of the best runs of his career to win his hometown rodeo with a 3.2 run. And I'll tell you what, watching it back, it wasn't the prettiest runs. It was pretty much the most unorthodox run that you have ever seen in a professional rodeo arena. But it doesn't matter. He got it done, and that's what matters. A couple days earlier, the first ever Wranglers Champions Challenge for 2016, and some of the best rodeo athlete and the talent was on display inside that arena. And tell you what, anybody that knows anything about bull riding, you know the last name Frost. In the last few years, you've gotten to really know the last guy that goes by the name of Joe Frost. He didn't let anybody down. I'll tell you what, that young man right there rode You Are Next from Frontier Rodeo for 84 big points to win his first ever Wranglers Champions Challenge, which if you watched Pro Rodeo Live or ProRodeo.com and you saw his interview, that was one of his historic moments and career milestones that he wanted to make sure happened before he retired from the sport of professional rodeo, and he got that done. So kudos to him. Great job, and Joe Frost is going to do some wonderful things in 2016. I have a feeling. One of the big things in PRCA over the last week is the deal with the ERA in the PRCA lawsuit. You know, there's been a lot of talk about it, what it's going to do to the sport of professional rodeo, what it's going to do to the PRCA and the ERA. Well, the judge made an injunction ruling and ruled in favor of the PRCA, which means that any of the PRCA athletes that participated in any PRCA sanctioned events from the start of the 2016 season all the way up to the injunction ruling, all that money was held in escrow. And what that means is, yes, the guys that are shareholders and owners and anything else of the ERA were able to compete, but their money was held in an account contingent on the ruling of the judge. And what that meant when that injunction came down, it made some cowboys not very happy. The reason is for that, all that money that was in escrow means all that money that they won. Trevor Brazil winning the average in Denver, Casey Coletti winning money in the bareback riding in Denver, both ERA contestants. That injunction came down. All the money that they spent traveling there and all the money that they won is a complete loss. That means None of the money they won will ever go into those pockets of those contestants that competed that were part of the ERA. And the only thing that they got back was the entry fees that they paid. So all the expense and the fuel, the travel, the lodging, the food, the hauling, everything that was associated with it, they're out money. That makes another thing of, what does that do? How is that fair to the contestants that maybe came in second or third? It was agreed upon by both parties to put the money in escrow. So regardless of the way the ruling went, it's the way it is, and that's the ruling that came down. So I have a feeling, you're going to see a lot of guys jumping ship from the ERA because they don't want to give up their PRCA, but only time will tell, and I will imagine that this is far from the last thing you're going to see or hear about this issue. But as of right now, the injunction came down for the PRCA, which means all that money is lost. So we'll see what that does to the ERA that's supposed to start their season March 22nd in Redmond, Oregon, and what that does to the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo here coming up in December. So continue each week to follow all your PRCA news. Brought to you by our great friend Tom Kaufman from Tactical Graphics. So a huge thank you goes out to him for bringing us the weekly PRCA news. But right now we're going to switch gears, and our partners from Avid Visual Rodeo Photography have done a really nice job of going to some PBR events for us and covering you and bringing you some great footage and some great action as we bring you our round recaps for the PBO. A huge thank you for those folks as well. So thank you so much for Philip and Heidi for doing all that you do. But Kansas City is coming up, and you guys are going to be there, so it's going to be awesome. But let's get back to the week in the PBR. Sacramento was last week. Huge news coming out of Sacramento. The Brazilians are making everybody take notice. 2016 seems to be that these guys, the faction of the PBR Built Ford Tough Series, said, you know what, I have a lot to prove after the American won the world champion title last year. It ain't going to happen again, and I don't know what to tell you. The Brazilians are coming out like they have a cause and a demeanor about them that I've never seen. Last week in Sacramento, Fabiano Vieira came out and won, covering 3 head of bulls for a total of 258 points and some change. Nobody else could beat him, and that's a huge. It was a 2-day event, so he got 400 bonus points plus all the points that he won throughout the round, which is really, if you look at the world standings right now, it is tight within the Built Ford Tough Series. And Joao and Fabiano and even Wallace Vieira de Oliveira is huge. He was pretty much an unknown when this 2016 season started, and he is coming up. A couple things that we need to talk about. As everybody saw, J.B. Mooney bowed out of the competition 2 weeks ago due to a huge onset of food poisoning. So he was out and about, and we're hearing a lot about illnesses and stuff within the PBR. But I'll tell you what, JB came back with a vengeance in Sacramento, came in second right behind Fabiano, and gained some much needed points. But one thing that we need to talk about is 4-time PRCA bull riding world champion J.W. Harris. He made the switch over to the PBR, and the first year he was in the PBR, he got the Rookie of the Year, which is kind of asinine. 4-time world champion gets Rookie of the Year in a different organization. It's an interesting dilemma, but after that he's been holding his own. But horrible news came down a couple days ago that J.W. Harris will be out for 4 to 6 months due to shoulder surgery. He made the decision that he's going to take out of most of the season this year and get his shoulder worked on so he can actually come back and be competitive, which is really going to make it hard for him to be able to make it back to the World Finals in Las Vegas this coming November, but we hope to see him there. Other huge news is everybody watched Boy, it was a disaster, but Frank Newsom, Dickey's durable fighter, made his triumphant return to the rodeo and bull riding arena in Sacramento after taking a devastating hit that knocked him out cold and sent shockwaves through the professional bull riding community. But the Rodeo Roundup was able to get a exclusive interview, which really put everybody at ease and let everybody know without a shadow of a doubt that Frank Newsom was going to be back in Sacramento. So we were excited to be able to talk to Dia and Frank and bring that exclusive interview to you a couple days ago. Another huge news that's coming out, St. Louis, Missouri, be ready. Midwest Showdown is going to be the title of this weekend's event in St. Louis, as Asteroid, that's right, I said it, Asteroid was retired, but Dakota Rodeo and Chad Berger said, no, I think I got about 3 to 4 good years left on that buck and bull, so they went and bought Asteroid, and Asteroid will make his triumphant return to the bull riding arena this weekend in St. Louis as the third 15-15 bucking battle kicks off. So take notice, Cowboys. Asteroid is back, and it's going to wreak havoc on the World Championship Buck and Bull title. So it's going to be interesting to see now that Asteroid is back. It brings a whole new dimension to the game, and we can't wait to see him back. You know, the last thing that we're going to cover this week is we're getting ready to get to the American Iron Cowboy, but this last weekend I had the honor of going to the XL Energy Center in St. Paul, Minnesota to cover the world's toughest rodeo. Everybody knows that the Lucia family pretty much runs it and owns the world's toughest rodeo, and Tommy Joe Lucia is also the COO of the new ERA, Elite Rodeo, the athletes organization. So I had a distinct honor and privilege to sit down and chat with him, which we put on the video earlier on YouTube to talk about what the new title within the ERA will do to the show of the world's toughest rodeo and his take on the injunction and everything. So make sure you go ahead and take a look at that, because it is a very interesting interview with Tommy Joe Lucia, the COO of the ERA. But you know, the action was fierce inside the XL Energy Center. There's a lot of PRCA guys that come up to this deal, and two of them were on display and put on just an amazing show both nights. The first night in the bull riding, Anoka, Minnesota, which is about 15 minutes from the arena, has a great PRCA bull rider, LaLanne Schwartz, and he goes by the name of Sunshine, which we never thought we'd see him back in a rodeo arena again after he was in a horrible car accident down in Texas just over a year ago that put him in intensive care and scared a lot of people, but he has fought back, and his wife and kids are by his side every day, and he came out, cracked it out, and won the Friday night performance of the world's toughest rodeo. So it was a great triumphant return for the young man on his, I think it was like his 8th or 9th bull back. Iowa Cowboy for you in the saddle bronc riding, Dalton Kingery. He came back from shoulder surgery, and this was his first horse back where he's not even cleared medically by his college medical department on his rodeo team until March. But he says, you know what, I haven't missed this rodeo in 3-4 years, and I want to come because this is one of the funnest rodeos I do every year. You couldn't tell he couldn't even tell he had a day off after coming back from surgery. He came out and heads and above the rest beat everybody else out in the saddle bronc riding to claim title Friday night, and then turning to Saturday night. Man, I'll tell you what, Woodbury, Minnesota, another cowboy for you. You've actually seen the guy from Woodbury, Minnesota, probably 4 years ago on the Built Ford Tough Series. You might recognize the name Matt Pojanowski. It was the only time he was on the Built Ford Tough Series, and he got a horn right to the face, and the camera went right up to him, and he just smiled with blood coming down. It was kind of funny, and everybody still gives him grief about that. But he came out, and nobody covered in the long go-round of the bull riding, but he came out and cracked out a 91-point ride, which lit that arena on fire in a championship bonus round on Saturday to claim victory. Not only some of the greatest rodeo athletic entertainment of both human and bovine and equine athletes, but some of the greatest contract acts and specialty acts in the industry today come in and out of that Xcel Energy Center. Last year, it was John Payne, the One-Armed Bandit, and this year, backed by popular demand, a night. The St. Paul Winter Carnival holds their carnival the same weekend as the world's toughest rodeos there. And Whiplash the Cowboy Monkey was knighted as a knight of the St. Paul Winter Carnival probably 2-3 years ago. So he's always excited to come back. He put on a great show for the last two nights, Friday and Saturday. And then the Saturday night after the arena was cleared from the equine athletes and the cowboys that were busted up and hauled off by the EMTs and paramedics, it was time to close down half the arena, pull the panels, and get the party on the dirt going. And what a fantastic, high energy concert it was by Nashville Young Gun Granger Smith. So what a great way to cap off the weekend. What a great way to cap off the first February week of professional rodeo. Right here with the Rodeo Roundup, I'll tell you what, we're going to see you back here next week as we get closer and closer to the AT&T Cowboy Stadium in Arlington, Texas for the RFD TV's The American and the Iron Cowboy, presented by Kawasaki. We'll see you next week. Stay tuned. Have a great one and be safe. God bless. Well,